Okay, so we're covering quite a lot so far, and now on module 9 we're going to really look at exercise and movement and why that's important. And I think I've stressed a few times the importance of the mind and the body, and not having one without the other, kind of you need the two. And the last two modules are focused very much on the mind and the mindset, but this particular model I want to look at exercise and why it's important. Now, why is exercise important? Well, we know why it's important, kind of. We're not stupid people, are we? We know that we need to move, right? It's really, really important. But one of the statistics that has been thrown out now by public health, I mean, when I say thrown out, I mean given out by public health, and particularly recently, is the impact of exercise on your recovery rate, and also the impact of exercise on the factor of getting the recurrence of cancers as well. And apparently, if you exercise, do at least 3 lots of exercise a week, of solid exercise, at least 45 minutes to an hour, or you do 30 minutes of exercise a day, you have a 30% reduction, or 30% less of a chance of getting recurrence of your cancer. So that's how important exercise is. So please don't underestimate it. And in fact, when I've been talking to oncologists and the breast surgeon and the people I've been working with over the last year in terms of my own health journey, they're not always the first to recognise diet in terms of the way of recovery, because it has to have clinical trials. So they're not necessarily the people who would recognise the importance of blueberries or vitamin C or broccoli or any of those things, because unless there's been a proper clinical trial, they can't really adopt it as their protocol. But they're very strong on exercise, and they know it's been proven that exercise is incredibly effective in terms of your recovery. And I know that my recovery was enhanced enormously because I continued to try and do as much as exercise as I possibly could. Obviously, I know it's really hard when you're really knackered and you're tired, and especially if you've had treatment and some kinds of clinical treatment, it's really hard to get out there and exercise. When you've had drugs and you're particularly tired, it's not easy. But, you know, exercise can come in many, many forms, and we're going to look at that a little bit later in this module about how you can get involved in exercise and what's really good for you. But the benefits of exercise are enormous. Not only is it great for your body in terms of, you know, helping you in terms of your recovery, helping you in terms of your healing. Obviously, it helps in terms of your muscle definition. Things like weight-bearing exercise has a massive impact on your bone density, for instance. So women in particular who are more prone to things like osteoporosis as they get older should definitely do some form of weight-bearing exercise. And I hear lots of women say to me, oh, I don't want to do weights because I might bulk up. Let me tell you, you'd have to do a serious amount of weights and take some serious supplements and stuff in order to bulk up. You know, you'd have to really, really exercise particularly hard. Actually, weight-bearing exercise strips fat enormously and helps with bone density and stops you getting things like osteoporosis. So it is something that you should be doing. So there should be a mix of exercises, really. Some aerobic stuff, because it's very, very good for your cardiovascular system, but also some weight bearing. So you can find ways of doing that. And if you look on my Facebook page, I do a thing called Fit Friday, and I do this thing where fun stuff, ways of moving, you know, movement. So I've started a movement, if you like, so that people can just move more. And we do stuff in supermarkets, we do stuff in the park, and we do all sorts of fun movement stuff to just get your body moving. The other thing I'll just end with on this particular element of exercise is that it's not just great and beneficial to you physically, but mentally as well, because we know this stuff, right? That exercise releases endorphins into your body, and that's a happy drug, and it makes you feel better. It's probably the best drug you can take if you're depressed. You know, you don't need to take all this other stuff. Don't need to self-medicate. You just need to move more and exercise more, and you'll feel so much better. It's quite meditative. You know, it's very, very good for the mind. It calms everything down. It releases good hormones. So, you know, I can't stress enough the importance of being able to move more. So that's what this module's all about. And let's get our heads around this over module 9. Okay, so we've spoken an awful lot about the mind, and we've talked about how exercise is really important and the effect it has on your body. But let's look at this section about how we move and what we can do and how we can incorporate exercise as part of our life and make it something that we just do without thinking about. It doesn't become a chore. I think once you get into this mindset that, oh, I've got to go and exercise every day, you're just not going to do it. And if you try and force yourself to do some kind of movement that you don't really enjoy, you're not going to keep it up, okay? Now, I'm one of these people who likes to keep it real, and one of the things I hope you'll find that when you look on my Facebook page and my website and those kinds of things, and these modules that we're going through, that you will see that I am realistic and I'm real and I'm honest, and I like to open up and talk about the things that are real and the real challenges. So that's one of the things that's really important to me, and I've noticed that on the whole journey that I've gone on. What I don't really like when I see it, and I see quite a bit of stuff on Facebook, is this very kind of, and excuse me, I mean nothing by this in this sense, but this very American gung-ho kind of videos promising you this 7 steps to fitness, 10 minutes to bikini abs, 100 crunches to this, and this guy went from this to that, this guy, one minute you've got a picture of his big fat belly, and the next minute he's got like, a 6-pack and stuff, as if that's the measure of the, success of exercise. Well, for me, the success of exercise is not around that. It's not about what you look like. It's how you feel, and it's what it's doing for your body, and that's more important than anything. We are born to move. We are born to move. We have muscles. We have muscle structure that is born very much to move, okay? And I don't know if you've ever had something like break, or you've ever had a breakage, or you've ever had to rest something or strain something, how very quickly the muscles atrophy if they're not being used, all right? So it's really, really important that you incorporate exercise into your life. You are born to move. It has massive impacts across the whole body, So it's really important that you incorporate some form of weight-bearing exercise, some form of cardiovascular movement for the heart and the respiratory system, but also a way to move the body so that you're getting, an increase in your bone density and those kinds of things. So what can you do? Well, gym membership's interesting. A friend of mine used to manage a gym, and she used to say that it's quite interesting because they actually factored in their budget that in January they'd had an uplift in membership, and they would know that they would oversubscribe the gym membership every year by 40% because they knew by February, March it would drop off. Yeah. Or you may know yourself may have done this. I've certainly done it in the past. Or friends who've joined an expensive gym membership, and they go to one class a month. Well, that's an expensive class, right? Your one class could cost you about 80 quid. So I would suggest you don't need to do any of that kind of stuff to start with. You need to find something that works for you on a consistent level. That's the trick, is to incorporate consistent levels of activity into your life. Why is that? Right, well, the lymph system, for a start, does not have a pump, right? Now, the lymph system pumps everything around the body, but it doesn't have its own pump. And the only way it can do that is if you move and exercise. Now, when you go through a cancer journey, particularly if you go through breast cancer, more often than not, you are having lymph nodes removed. I had 46 lymph nodes removed under my arm last year. And that will have compromised this side of my body quite considerably, and obviously the circuitry in my lymph system. So it's really important that I move, and I get moving so that I pump that blood and around my body, that I'm assisting my lymph system even more. But also it's really, really, really good for you. That's all I can say. And it's also, as we spoke about before, very meditative and very good for the mind. So find an activity you love. I always think the most, healthiest people are people like dog walkers. Sounds a bit strange, but they walk their dog 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. That's an hour's worth of exercise they're getting a day. They probably don't even think about it, but they're doing 30 minutes of good walking a day, okay? And, if you exercise 30 minutes every day, you've 30% less chance of developing or getting a recurrence of cancer. That's pretty bloody significant. So I do think find an activity. If you love to dance, find a salsa class. If you like to walk, I don't run. My knees are pretty shot, so I don't run anymore, but I walk. I love walking. You can speed walk. Find some friends who'll walk with you. Find clubs, activities, things you like to do that are going to involve movement and being active. And the other thing to do is, and you can always look on my Facebook page, we do a thing called Fit Friday, and we look at all sorts of fun ways of incorporating movement into your life, right? Take the stairs, not the lift. They're simple things. We know this stuff. If there are steps outside and you're waiting for someone, do some step-ups while you're waiting. walk around the supermarket with a couple of baskets rather than a trolley. Put the shopping in equal amounts into your baskets and walk around the store. That's good weight bearing exercise. And there's lots of stuff you can do. Walk around a park benches, fantastic for exercise. I did an exercise routine last Friday on a park bench for you. It's all on Facebook. So all I'm saying is find some way of incorporating exercise into your life. Do it now and keep it consistent. Okay, well, we've talked about exercise, but it would be wrong of me not to incorporate resting and napping in this. And that probably sounds a bit strange in a whole module about exercise, but we talked a little bit more before about the importance of the downtime and how your muscles heal and grow and develop in the downtime, in the space in between. So also I want to look at rest and relaxation because napping, you know, as I think I mentioned before that I always used to think napping was for grannies, you know. I used to feel like a bit, if someone said, oh, why didn't you have a nap? And I used to think, oh, that's a bit kind of weird. But actually, napping has been proven now, and also public health have proven it, that it is very beneficial to your body. Actually, even like a 10-minute nap can rejuvenate your cells and recharge you in the afternoon when your blood sugars drop and it goes and it dips. So all I'm saying is that alongside exercise, it's just as important to try and incorporate relaxation and napping and those kinds of things in between, particularly if you are going through some form of treatment, okay? So try and make that just as important in terms of the relaxation and the resting as the exercise is, and just keep that a little bit consistent. I wanted to just put a little bit of a note in there about that. We have already talked about the downtime before, so I'm not going to labour it too much, but I do think it's very important that you incorporate that within your exercise routine, because there is nothing worse than burning yourself out. You know, I've seen people who get a little bit obsessive about exercise, and actually what they're doing is they're depleting their energy stores by just doing too much and becoming a bit obsessive. And one of the things that's really important is to create balance in your life and not to have an obsessive quality, to have what Buddhists would call the middle way, the middle line, the balanced view, okay? To try and balance your exercise consistently. A little and often is better than a huge load and then nothing at all, but also try and incorporate maybe napping and resting in between, particularly through treatment cycles, okay? Okay, well, in this whole module about movement, it may sound strange to do a little piece on sleep, but actually sleep is incredibly essential, important, all of those words, when it comes to your recovery and your healing. And it's also incredibly important, regardless of whatever you're going through. Just, you know, people who haven't even been diagnosed with any kind of chronic disease should look at their sleep patterns, because sleep has a massive impact on your immune system, and it really does. And I think there's this huge thing about people feeling that, oh, I can get by on 5 hours sleep. Well, that's not clever, actually. The body does need, I reckon, on average around 8 hours of good sleep. And not just any old sleep, I mean good sleep, good, proper, deep sleep, so that your body can rest, the cells can regenerate. We talked a little bit in the diet and exercise module about intermittent fasting and those kinds of things. And when you're sleeping and you're going through the intermittent fasting phases, it's a really good way for your cells to regenerate. Now, if you're not sleeping very well, it really drops your immune system, So it's something you really need to get into. Now, how can we look at our sleep pattern? Well, first of all, there are some gadgets you can buy. I haven't got one, but I understand there's some really clever bits of kit around, and a FitPro and things like that are very good at monitoring your sleep patterns, and they can tell you the amount of quality sleep you're actually getting. So you may think you're getting, 6 hours sleep or 8 hours sleep a night, but actually it will tell you how much of that is actually good deep sleep. So regarding sleep, now we all have different types of patterns, but the best way to try and get some kind of good sleeping habit in place is to have regular sleeping habits. Certainly should not be looking at any kind of technology for at least an hour before you go to bed. That light, the actual blue light and the stimulating light on your phone and on your laptop and those kinds of things will certainly affect your sleep patterns. Definitely, with no shadow of a doubt, should you have your telephone on in your bedroom. Your mobile phone should not be on in your room. It should certainly not be anywhere near you while you're asleep. I turn my phone off at least an hour before I go to bed, and it's in a completely different room, and it's really important, okay? Very, very damaging. And in fact, they've done all sorts of studies of mobile phones against plants and various other things and the effect that has on them. So sleep, you must get some kind of routine. Make sure you're trying to get to bed at a certain time every night, and stick with that time if you can, because your body needs to go into a circadian rhythm. It needs to get itself into a kind of body clock rhythm. It's really important. So I tend to go to bed at a certain time every night, and I'm pretty rigid about that. And you know, I can be a little bit dogmatic at times about when I will go out and when I won't and what I will do. But I will only eat up till 7 o'clock, for instance. I don't eat after 7. And I want to be at home and in bed certainly by 10 o'clock, certainly in the week anyway. Because I know that if I'm not, it's going to affect my sleep patterns, and it's going to affect me the next day, and it's going to affect my immune system, and it's really important to me. There may be the odd days where I go beyond that. You know, I'm not that rigid. I don't believe in anything obsessive. But if I do have a late one, particularly, I make sure I catch up on that sleep, and I make sure with the food patterns as well. So try to stick to the same night every night. Make sure your room is dark and there's no lights outside and nothing to disturb you, okay? Make sure the temperature is right, not too warm. It needs to have a little bit of coolness in the air, apparently. It's supposed to be better for you. Do not have laptops or phones anywhere near you. They should be in another room, and turn them off an hour before bed. And also try not to drink liquid for an hour before you go to sleep, because you're more prone, if you're starting to drink liquids all the way to before you go to bed, you may end up getting up in the night to go to the loo. So that's going to disturb your sleep pattern. Try and put those things in place. You know, there are other types of things that you can do, like lavender and, you know, organic sleep sprays and things like that. I don't really advise taking sleeping, you know, tablets, even herbal ones, because I don't want you to become reliant on those, and the body needs to find its own way. But please, please, if you're finding that your sleep patterns are interrupted, or if you're taking any certain drugs as well through your protocol, through your cancer treatment, that are affecting your sleep, you've got to talk to your oncologist, or you've got to talk to professional people around you and find a way to get that sleeping back in, because it is going to affect your immune system. And you need your immune system absolute at its best for you to heal and recover. Sleep is essential and not something that we should kind of dismissed to one side. It's as essential as the exercise that you do for your body and the food and nutrients that you put in your body, okay? Okay, so let's wrap up this module now, module 9, and let's look at, just finally, I want to touch a little bit on down days, because, you know, I am a very positive person, I get that, and I'm talking all about all these positive things and what you can do and what you can put in place and how I breeze through this and how I've got through this journey. But let's be honest and let's be real. I've talked about being real before. You're going to have some down days, right? If you're having, you know, going through cancer treatment and you're going through the protocol, which is normally the whole, you know, surgery and chemicals and radiation and chemo and all of that stuff, it is brutal. You know, it really is. There's no getting away from it. You know, it's not a picnic. It's not a musical. It is bloody brutal. It's a marathon. And it's a triathlon, really, to be honest. So you are going to have some down days. And I want to talk about those. What do we do on those? Well, first of all, I think the important thing is, more than anything, is to acknowledge it and accept it. Just accept that you're having a down day, you know. You're tired. You're going through a hell of a journey, and you're going to have times where you're not sure you can keep going through it. You're not sure where you can cope. You're scared, you're frightened, you're tired, the drugs are taking their toll, and all this trying to be brave stuff and no fear and all the things I'm talking about. There is the reality, whereas when you're having a down day and you're tired or the drugs are affecting you, that all goes out the window, yeah? And we get that, okay? You're human, we're all human, and we're going to have those days. The first thing to do if you're feeling really down is to recognise that it will not last forever, is to not feel that this is the way it's going to be, and that this is it, it's set in now and it's not, you know, not going anywhere. one of the things in terms of a Buddhist type principle is, if days are really shit, don't worry, because they'll get better. It's temporary. If days are really great, don't get too thing, because they're temporary. Everything is temporary. Everything shifts. Everything moves, right? So the whole thing is that nothing stays permanent, nothing stays the same for long. So ride the good stuff, enjoy every second. You don't know how long you've got it for. And if things are really bad, don't worry, because they're not going to be bad forever. So try and bear that in mind a little bit. But when you're feeling really down, the first thing to do is acknowledge it. Just accept it. Label it. So saying, I'm having a really down day. This is a difficult day for me. I'm down. I actually don't think I can do anything today. I'm tired. I need to rest, and acknowledge that. And not just acknowledge it to yourself, but acknowledge it to the people around you who are supporting you. Acknowledge it to people around you, because you don't have to be superhuman in this machine all the time and make it all great. This isn't Disneyland. This is real. This is real stuff. So first of all, acknowledge it having a down day. And then ask yourself, and be very aware that you know more than anyone what you need. So don't start putting your trust in everybody else. Yes, I'm saying you can trust other people, but the most person you need to trust in this whole process is yourself. And trust your intuition, and trust your gut. Trust yourself that you know what it is that you need. So ask yourself, what do I need right now? Stay still with yourself. Stay present and aware. We've talked about awareness quite a bit, and through this journey of mindfulness and awareness, you really get to know yourself and ask yourself what you need, what you want, what you need to do right now. And if that is to lie in bed all day, if you can, and if that is to rest, or if that is to eat something particular, or if that is just do what you need to do to get you through that particular period of time. But what I would suggest through those down days is acknowledge those down days, but also don't wallow. Right? Don't wallow in that downness, because the dark side and the negative kind of energy can have quite a pulling effect. It can pull you and suck you in. It can be quite powerful. If you indulge too much in that, you can get into a downward cycle, and then what happens is you feel down, you rest, you feel like rubbish, you feel a bit frightened and a bit scared, you're fed up, so you're more likely to eat crap food, so you'll eat a bar of chocolate even though you've been really good with all your diet and exercise, and then you're less likely to exercise, and before you know it, all those really good practices and habits start to kind of implode on themselves, and then you feel bad because you've eaten a bar of chocolate, so then you beat yourself up, so the mindfulness is going. Can you see how one small indulgence or too long of an indulgence starts to pull you back down into those old habitual patterns of negative thinking, self-sabotage, self-judgment, and all those other bad practices? They all link together, okay? So take the downtime, acknowledge it, accept it, but also find that shoot that is coming through in the spring, if you know what I mean. Doesn't matter what the weather is, how cold it is, just allow some shoot to come through from yourself. Find that spark within yourself again and say, it doesn't matter how tired and down I am still going to do, for instance, my healthy eating, or I'm going to rest today, but tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk. And just by cutting a line through that downward spiral, through that downtime, will just lift you back up to the next little step in order for you to take the steps back up. Sometimes the rungs of the ladder seem to be missing, and you're on the bottom one, and there's only the bottom rung, and then there's only the top one, and you're missing all the steps in between. Just take the first one and the other steps will follow. Just trust in that, and trust in yourself. But you have to give yourself the right conditions in which to do it. So all I'm saying is, yes, you're going to get some downtime. I would be wrong of me to go through this whole set of modules to say that if you do this, this and this, it's all going to be fabulous. 10 minutes to bikini abs, 10 minutes a day to a wonderful, abs and all of this sort of stuff. No, it's consistent effort and a willingness and a drive and a passion and a life force in you that wants to take your power back and make these things happen, okay? So, embrace your journey, love yourself, take away the judgment, and take those small steps every day.